Welcome back to the Elle-Sera podcast. And today I've got Heather Jackson. She's the co-founder of a conglomerate called GenM. And we're going to get right into what GenM is right now. Hi, Heather.
Well, hello. And I've been really looking forward to this. GenM. GenM is the menopause partner of brands. And any woman or man listening to this might go, well, what's that got to do with us? But actually, menopause, we all need choice and trust to be able to shop, serve and find products that actually can help ourselves with our menopause. And actually, the marketplace of menopause needs trust and credibility right now to actually drive that forward. So GenM and its collective of incredible brands, from retailers through to brands, through to yourselves, from big brands to huge retailers, have absolutely all united to make the menopause better for all. And GenM is at the heart of it with our universal MTIC symbol that will actually unite all the brands in the world to actually come together to serve, support and deliver to more menopausal women the ability to menopause their way and have the best ability to thrive. And, you know, we've loved having you in the collective. You've been a great part of it. And I see you being with us for years to come because, you know, every woman deserves that opportunity to be the best version of herself, however she wants to do it. And whether it's taking supplements, nutrients and getting climate control bedding and taking HRT, that's her choice. And actually, she has to find that way to be that better version. And I'm all for women of my generation swinging from the chandelier. I really am. And yeah, if you don't get to 55 and want to swing from the chandelier, you've missed out on a lot in life. So
I think, okay, so you picked up on some really good points there about being like having choice. And I don't see this. I know you feel a lot of pushback. We all see pushback in the menopausal space because people think you're trying to monetize the menopause. I do not see this stage of life as any difference to pregnancy. And when I walk into John Lewis or Boots or wherever, there are pregnancy aisles, baby care aisles, there are these aisles, that aisles. There are experts in store who will help you and say that this is a product. There is signposting everywhere for pregnancy products. How is this any different?
Well, it isn't any different. And actually, it is different right now because we haven't got that aisle.
For sure.
We haven't got that signposting. We haven't got that ability to make those choices to where to spend our money on what and how we want to live our lives. So, you know, we do believe at GenM that, you know, we've always said make menopause the new vegan. And that's, 3% of the population are vegan. And you look at how much money has been spent over the last 3 years creating that marketplace to deliver on the needs of a vegan person. You know, what they need, what they want, how they like to be served. You want to put a meat counter next to a vegan counter. And that's for a 3% market share of an audience that have a life choice here. Whereas 20% of the population have no life choice. Where's their signposting? Where's their ability to find what they're looking for or actually find products that they didn't know they needed, but actually when they see it, they go, oh my God, that could change my life. Climate control bedding for one of them.
Like moisture wicking pajamas.
Absolutely, you know, and period-proof pants. Now, again, I love the fact that my daughter's generation, they're all wearing period-proof pants and everything else. You get to my generation of women and it's like, how can they work? You know, I'm not taking a risk. I'll just, you know, have my tampons and everything else. Well, actually, period-proof pants will actually allow you to actually take the angst out of when your period next will go. Because when you're young, you know, to the day, to the hour, to the minute when your next period's going to be. When you're perimenopausal, you don't get a flow, you get a flood. And you never know when it's going to come. So why don't, you know, it's like, I love these adverts where I'm showing girls in like, you know, white shorts and everything else. Well, I want to be a woman who can wear white trousers any time of the year and get on a train and not have to think about, am I going to embarrass myself when I stand up? So again, all these things need to be shown to us. And yes, you can say marketed, but you know, we've used the word commercial earlier on. And, you know, money makes the world go around. And anyone who doesn't think that the world and the economy is about driving profit and growth and commercial growth, you know,
and
they're on a different planet. But actually, purposeful commercial growth can change the world. And actually, our MTIC and the GenM collective of brands ranging from Boots through to Sainsbury's, through to Holland & Barrett, through to Tesco, right through to brands like yourself, through to Lima, through to, you know, Ameliorate, through to Espar, all these brands, we've got over 120 brands now in the collective, driving that ability to help us find things we're looking for. Let's not knock it, let's embrace it, because every woman's menopause is different. And who's to say where woman's menopause journey starts? It could start down the Tesco aisle while she's shopping for everybody else in her family, and she's rushing around, and she goes to the menopause aisle and goes, oh my God, that's why my hair is dropping out, why my plugs are always full at the moment. I'm getting thin in hair. Maybe I am menopausal. It can start that way. And then once she realizes that she's perimenopausal, then she can look to other things that she might need to go to the doctors. She might start to need to look at her food intake. But it's got to start somewhere. And right now, most women in the UK, 15.5 million women at any one point are menopausal. But right now in the UK, most women, never mind men, can only name between 3 to 5 symptoms of menopause. There are 48 signs and symptoms of menopause. And actually not all debilitating, but all actually, if you leave them long enough, they'll start to annoy you. They'll start to bring you down. They'll start to lose your confidence. So, we have to have this gauge of looking at how we're feeling, what are we doing? Can we actually make any of those symptoms better? And the majority of those symptoms, if you really understand what you're going to be going through, you can better prepare for and ensure your experience of it isn't as bad as the media might make it out to be.
The Tesco aisle has been brilliant for us. We had a customer that reached out to us saying, my boss has come up to me today and he wants to help me in some way with my menopause experience after going into Tesco's down an aisle and thinking, oh my God, I had no idea at the symptoms that the women in my workforce were dealing with at this particular time. We spoke about it on LinkedIn and we were mentioning how brilliant it is. But then there was a massive backlash when it came to the Tesco aisle. And the word that always kind of comes into circulation, we hear it within our product, you hear it at GenM, and that is meno washing. What are the thoughts on meno washing?
Well, meno washing, I mean, we'll talk about that even more in a moment, but let's just be back to basics here. GenM and the encouragement of retailers to give better signage to menopause, give better designated space to menopause, give a better visibility and trust to menopause wasn't done by two perimenopausal co-founders just getting up one morning going, I just need menopause to be made visible. We, with our own money, invested heavily into research to understand whether we were the only two women in the world who felt that we were let down, underserved and overlooked by brands when we needed them to help us support it. And our research irrevocably and unarguably is the best research out there to prove that actually women want better signage, they want better designated space, they want to be served better, they want to find products easier. And that right now there's only 14% of the population who are of menopausal women who are on HRT. What are the other 86% doing? And actually, of our research, 58% of those women taking HRT are now recognising it's not the one silver bullet. They still need to look for other products to complement their journey because no one's menopause is the same. And actually, we have to work through this. I always joke and laugh and say, you wouldn't run a marathon in a pair of slippers straight off your settee. You'd prepare for it. You'd train for it. You'd get the right food in your body. You'd buy the right kit. You go into a running shop. You won't go, this running shop is exploiting my need to run a marathon. Actually go, oh, wow. In here, there's things for me. And do you know what? My best mate, that'll do for her. She's having trouble with her knees. Maybe that would help her. Yeah. We need to bring this out. 48 symptoms. And yes, there's 48 opportunities for retailers and brands and society to help women have a better menopause. And actually, let's get down to the facts here. We are the biggest generation of women right now entering the workplace, but we're also the fastest generation leaving the workplace. We're also the highest rate of women of suicidal women, and we're also in the period of time the highest rate of relationship breakdowns. Let's not pretend that menopause isn't impacting any of this. So the sooner we can help women and men and the whole of society understand menopause better, raise the awareness of it, understand it better, and support it better. Hey, bingo, the world thrives. And equal to that, back to the meno washing. We'll talk exactly about that right now. But, the big argument was, women don't need this. Women, they're not stupid. They're being exploited. I haven't found one 55-year-old woman who feels exploited right now. We've been sold to all our lives. By the time you get to 55, you know exactly what works, what doesn't work, and you know which brands you want to trust. So again, working with GenM and getting the credibility to actually prove prove your product is menopause friendly is a big game changer here. But let's not think as well that Tesco are doing it just all about women. I don't just see women of menopausal age walking down a Tesco. I see young men, I see teenagers, I see, older men. And actually, if we can help normalize conversation, normalize the menopause. I mean, everyone says to me, is your aspiration, Sam, and your aspiration to have a menopause aisle? And I said, well, it started out as we wanted the world to have menopause aisles and we wanted department stores to have menopause capsules and everything else. But our true aspiration is to not have that, but actually as the vegan, once upon a time we had aisles, now we just have the vegan symbol and it's scattered and it's normalized, it's inclusive, it's vibrant, it's normal. So the aspiration of GenM is to have this MTIC across products so that anyone can shop any aisle in the future. But right now we need to really stimulate demand. We need to actually raise the awareness and we need more people to recognise that this is something that's a life transition that needs to be taken seriously. So it's all exciting. It's all for the taking. It's all for the taking. And when I say all for taking, it's all for the taking for women to actually be the best versions of themselves. And, let's be that first generation of women who actually, menopause isn't a barrier for them. It is the actual gate opener to their better life ahead of them. And I don't want to think that a 35-year-old woman now is going, she's having the best years of her life and she fears menopause. Our research report in 2023 showed that more women in 2023 fear menopause than they did in 2020 because the rhetoric has been so negative and so toxic, when actually I want women to go, well, I'm 35 and I'm having a great life, but if that's 55, bring it on, and I don't see many 35-year-olds going, bring on the menopause right now.
Unfortunately, you can't do a lot of marketing around pain points if they're like, you can't sell them anything, can you? We see it ourselves. Like we're an aspirational brand. We showcase our customers looking vibrant, looking sexy, looking great, feeling great. That's all our imagery. But yeah, every time I speak to a marketing company, where's the pain point? Agitate the pain point, and then you're the solution. Yeah. And I'm a bit like, I've just literally had the conversation before we get into this podcast. Like, you need to split it out, Alyssa, in your ads. Pain point, pain point, pain point, pain point, pain point. And then we have the solution. I'm a bit like, sit there arguing with them for an hour because it's a guy telling me this. But also, that is how you sell products, unfortunately.
Well, it was how you sold products. What the market and the advertisers and the marketeers are forgetting is my generation of women, we are actually revolutionaries. We don't need pain points. We need to carry on everything that we've ever been brought up. Choice, opportunity to be the best version of yourselves, opportunity to take your careers to the top, opportunity to have children, not have children. I mean, obviously there are some people who can't as well. But equally, it's all about choice and opportunity. So when we're talking about this, I don't believe that they're getting our psyche, because actually we don't want men washing. We want men empowering. We don't want liberation, as you've said in the past. We don't want limitation. We want liberation. We don't want control. We want choice. We don't want fear. We want thrive. Get in our psyche and work with us to actually give us the empowerment and the aspiration to thrive. Because back to women valuing themselves, we still are, of the sexes, the most self-undervalued generation, sex. Because at the end of the day, we put ourselves last. We're too busy. We're thinking of other people, whether it be our career, our families, and our aging parents, or however it might be. We're always on the bottom of the pile. And we're always on the bottom of the pile. It's gone through life. I had a business that was all about empowering women to take their careers to the top. One of the biggest barriers to women holding themselves back was themselves negotiating, because they negotiated for what they believed they were worth than what they actually are worth. And again, back to health, we need to build women to value their health, put themselves at number one, have it be okay to actually spend a certain amount of money on supplements and everything else, and not feel guilty about it, but actually go, if my family need me to be the best version of myself, if I am the pinnacle of this family, I need to actually be the fittest, be the most healthiest, and live the best life to be able to deliver all that, when actually we're allowing women to have all that responsibility and actually still do it half-cocked because we haven't got the right nutrients in us, supplements and everything else. So,
it's the oxygen mask analogy.
Completely.
Again. Yeah. Speaking of revolutionaries, Heather, talk to me about you. How did you and Sam, who we've also had the podcast, Sam Simister, another fabulous lady, come up with GenM? But what is also your background? Because I'm feeling a lot of passion, a lot of like, you're not somebody who would take anything lying down. No. Well, I never want to come up against you.
Listen, girl from Barnsley and comprehensive girl at that, but no, seriously, I've always put myself, I've never sat on a fence. I've always been the one who stuck up for someone and actually ended up being in a worse position for sticking up for them, or, got into controversial arguments. The reason why I built my previous business about getting more women to the top, it was all about women in the pipeline. Everyone 20 years ago were looking at why I haven't got enough women at the top. I was looking at, well, actually, why haven't you got enough women? It's those in the middle pipeline what we need to incubate. And I was 32 at the time. I'd left my husband and my dad. I worked for the family firm. I didn't know actually which I was unhappy with, so I left them both. Not the best way to do things, but actually I knew there was something in me that actually was better than everything. And I don't mean that condescendingly. I went to see a woman who I asked to be my mentor in the end, and the first thing I said to her was, Linda, I know I'm good at something, but I don't know what it is, and you need to find it in me. She realised then that I was someone who could come up with solutions rather than look at a problem. I found a solution, and the big solution we found was women in the pipeline. So we ended up working with 30,000 women in 150 global companies. But I didn't do it just for those women. I did it for me as well, because I needed that evidence to show that choice, control, understand your capabilities, confidence. If I had confidence, and if I had the contacts and the networks, and if I had the recognition of my own skills and capabilities, I could then have the choice to take my career wherever it wanted. And if I could feel like that, so could thousands of other women. And again, it was actually, I was a girl, my dad's an artist. I was his manager. I lived in Home Firth in Yorkshire all my life, and I've never worked for a corporate company in my life. I've worked for my dad, and then I've been self-employed. What did I know about the corporate world? I didn't know diddly squat, but what I did know is I had a solution that no one was looking at, and actually unite women together and actually can understand one another better. So my personality was always about fighting for people use the trendy word now, inclusiveness. I just wanted to fight for what was right. Yeah. And, I've always felt the underdog. But back to GenM, the reason why we started this was I'd cashed in on my business. Me Too had come along, time's up, and I thought that wasn't a journey I wanted to go on. Not because I didn't want to get to the end result, but it was very toxic. It was very anti-men, and I like men. Yeah. I've got a son. I don't want him to be bashed around. I don't want him to be treated as we've been treated. Two wrongs don't make a right. And so I cashed in on that, and I was in a period of my life where I was climbing Kilimanjaro. I was going to have my Thelma and Louise period, and Sam, my co-founder, she's been a good friend throughout my business life, and she was a great executive at Innocent. She was one of my role models I used to roll out to show women that, there are great women up there, and they're just normal, but this is how they've done it. And I was in a bad way. I'd had 6 months, which was meant to be a great time, and I was doing all these things, but there was something that was wrong with me. I couldn't put my finger on it. I was very emotional. I ached a lot. I'd been to the doctors for everything from, check me out for cancer, check me out for fatigue, check my thyroids out. And in the end, after like 12 trips to the doctors, and I'd actually got to know the receptionist really well. And this is someone who doesn't go to the doctors, do you know what I mean? And they just went, Heather, I think you're depressed. And I mean, I came out with a packet of antidepressants and like crying and laughing at the same time, because it was like, oh my God, first time in life I've got cash in the bank. My kids have all left home for the right reason. I've got the money to do my bucket list of Everest, Kilimanjaro, India.
Anything you want to do,
and yet they've prescribed me as depressed. And anyway, I bumped into Sam. We went for lunch together, and she said, oh my God, Heather, what's happened to you? You cashed in and you were a woman who was going to go and get everything. You've lost weight. You're lacking in confidence. You're crying at the table. I said, honestly, Sam, I can't believe I feel like this. I've just lost control of myself. I don't know who I am, what I am. And actually, my kids have said, Mum, you're talking in the past. You're talking about what you once did as if that was a different person. And I actually did believe that everything I'd done, I would never be able to do right now. Do you know what I mean? That wasn't me. That was a woman gone. And Sam just said, I'm going to Portugal. I've got to go and work out there. Do you want to come for a few days? And when I was there, she said, Heather, I don't think you're depressed. I think you're perimenopausal. And long story short.
And how old were you at this point?
I was 48.
Okay, so yeah. I mean, we know now that it probably starts around 40, 42.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
I mean, the guy who told me last week, he said, you're 38, you're probably perimenopausal. So I was like, fuck.
But do you know what? I actually think I'd been perimenopausal. It's all on hindsight. And with my previous business, I rocked up to big conferences. We had our own big annual conferences, 500 senior leaders from around the world came to it and everything else. And I was a confident woman. And one night, just before one of the conferences, I ended up waking up in the middle of the night thinking that I'd got an iron bar on my chest. I couldn't breathe. I phoned the receptionist. They called 999 or 111 or whatever it is now, and rushed me to hospital thinking I'd had a heart attack. Then they thought I was having a stroke, and my kid's dad had a stroke and he died at 42. I just, it was like that panic of, oh my God, my kids don't deserve this. And anyway, long story short, 2 days later, it turns out I'd had a panic attack.
Right.
And I'm embarrassed to say it, but I have to say it because actually I believe panic attacks were for wimps.
I
it was
agree.
like, and I pleaded with the hospital not to put it on my notes because I didn't want to come out of hospital having worried my kids and my family and going, I've had a panic attack. But actually, it was the best thing for me because on hindsight, that panic attack was the first stage of my menopause. It was one of those anxiety and everything else building up. But, I'd lived through my kid's dad's dying. I built a business, I'd had a fallout with the family over the years and everything else. I thought, well, how hard can menopause be? It's just, doesn't your period stop and that's the end of it? Bingo, no more periods. Great stuff. Thank you very much. I'm off. I never, ever prepared myself for what your body was going to go through, what you were going to go through mentally and emotionally. And I'm not going to sit here and go, oh my God, the menopause is awful, because it's only awful if we don't know what we're prepared for. If someone's going to punch you in the face, if you know it's coming, you can brace yourself, and it's doesn't hurt as much as it would if you get it blindsided. And most women are entering menopause blindsided, as I was. And do you know what? There's a part of me, I was angry because Sam and I, when I looked at perimenopause, then we started looking, she told me her journey of the hot sweats, and she started to actually look at new fabrics and create her own pajamas and everything else from sports material and everything else. It was like, I spent a week with her out there and she was working at Innocent. I said, you tell me your symptoms. I'll go through mine now. And by the end of this trip, I'll have got us all the products we need to enhance our experience. And she went, well, good luck with that. And honestly, back in, I wasn't 48, I'm lying, I was 51. Back then, you really felt like you were on the deep, dark web searching. It was getting embarrassing how far you were going to find what you were looking for. And at the end of it, Sam and I said, this is terrible. I said, we're time-poor women who actually have worked hard all our lives. We've supported brands like, I can remember Next growing where you won't even remember it, you two, but you got a catalogue and it came coffee table book.
I remember that.
I still remember that.
No, but it was, we were part of that whole generation and everything else. And then when you need them, they're not there. And so again, we said, right, what can we do about this? I said, well, it's easy. We're going to build a one-stop shop. We'll make sure we'll do a report and find out that, a research report, and find out that we're not two moaning minis on a beach here. That report came out. I said, right, we're going to build the one-stop shop. 96% of the 4,000 women that went through our independent research said they wanted a one-stop store for menopause. And actually, perfect, time-poor woman, busy, make it easy for us. Anyway, we built this one-stop store. We had a working title called Moogle. We were going to be the Google of the menopause, and everything apart from HRT. We believe that there's a place for doctors and everything else, but from your climate control bedding to even your foundation that doesn't run down your face. These are all things that can help us have a better today than yesterday. It's not going to cure our menopause, but it's going to make it better. And that's what we wanted to concentrate on. So we built this site. I was obviously cashed in. I wasn't doing anything else. It was it was a great project to have on. So I went to all the biggest retailers and went, we've got this great site. We need you to put your menopause friendly products on it. And they went, well, what's menopause and what's it got to do with us? And so that was then when we realized, right, the shit has hit the fan. We need to turn this round. We need to bring brands and retailers in to realize that you have a role to play in, one, raising awareness of menopause. You've got the biggest reach ever together of consumer and colleagues to raise this and help normalise it. You've got the ability to actually put onto your shelves products that will help that woman experience it, and you've got the ability to actually better signpost. So we then created the MTIC. I mean, the MTIC was an incredible moment. We were inside Boots, and they said, "What else will GenM be doing?" Because we'd got 48 brands to commit to serving the menopause better. And you said, what else will we be doing? And I doodled this M, and I said, we want to create the MTIC. This is what we want to do. And they then said, wow, that's incredible, a universal symbol for menopause. We will work with you on the credibility and the criteria. And then we will trial it for you. We'll trial it in 1,000 stores on 150 products. And then after that, we then rolled it out to the other brands. And do I now see it as being the next 5 years, we will make this MTIC as recognisable as the vegan V, because it will break down the barriers. It's more than just a shopping symbol. It will break down barriers. It will normalise conversation, and it will actually allow women to feel that menopause is a part of their life and not to be feared, but to thrive. So that's where we're at. So I hope that's answered in a long-winded way where we get to.
We should say with the MTIC, people can't just slap it on anything.
Absolutely not.
So what is the criteria that a brand has to meet?
Well, the criteria, there's 5 parts, and obviously you can go onto our website to fit all the criteria, but in long short, the criteria is built to ensure that the menopausal woman or anyone buying from a menopausal woman can have trust in what the products are that have that MTIC. Trust that it will serve that symptom it says it will on the label. And so actually every product that works with us, so it's not just about a brand getting it. If you had more than one product, you'd have to put all your products through it and we'd see which one's got it. Not all products get it, but equally we have to check whether it's got medical, clinical or health claims, and are they around that symptom and can they prove it? Has it been tested on menopausal women? Has it got great Trustpilot 4 or 5 stars on the Trustpilot? Now people say, or has it got the technology like climate controlled wicked bedding or whatever it might be? Now people might say, actually, Trustpilot, why would you use Trustpilot? Well, actually more women now than ever before. 78% of women are self-diagnosing their menopause and they're self-researching. And then they're passing on their information, the learning and the products that they're buying with their friendship groups. Those Trustpilots are becoming more of an ability to recognise whether something works or not than actually medical, clinical or credible.
For sure.
Because again, what works for one person, I'm not saying it works for every menopausal woman, but it triggers that point off. So I have no problems with, a Trustpilot being that absolute verification as well as one of those verifications. So, you've got to actually work with us on the certification and everything. We take you through a process. We took you through your process, and it actually really does work. I mean, it's like everything. Everything in life can be improved. No one's got life right. No one's got the business right and everything else. And I do, and I will always say that the MTIC criteria can be improved, and it will over the next few years be made stronger and stronger. But we had to start somewhere, and working with Boots, their legal team, their pharmaceutical team, their whole team, we believe we've built a good accreditation that can go across products from nutrients and supplements right through to bedding to cosmetics, all the way through this, because like I said, this is about not curing menopause, but giving an ability to have a better lived experience.
For sure. We spoke about Meno washing before, and actually, and Kelly brought up before about the furore over the Tesco aisle. Mainly I see this over on LinkedIn more than, and in the national mainstream media than anywhere else. And actually what I do see is other women in the menopause space bashing the work that you're trying to do. It's actually, as you brought up before, women on women.
Yeah. Well, I think, and Kelly and both of you have been a big supporter and helping us out here, because actually you knew the passion and the purpose we've had in this business and the self-funding. We are still 2 co-founders of Menopausal Age who have self-funded this business, and we've done it actually because we believe it's the right thing to do. And so when you do something that you think is the right thing to do, not just you personally, but your research shows it's the right thing to do. When we got knocked like we did, we really took it badly. It's like any woman, when you criticise, you don't look at the compliments you've had or what great work you're doing, you look at the criticism. And actually, the criticism came from everyone jumping on the bandwagon, these particular journalists and everybody else looking at it as this is big brands milking the menopause
exactly.
now.
And I think people in people's head, they see this GenM thing and they see the MTIC and they kind of think it's like I don't know, like some big pharma group or some kind of like big...
Well, they looked at it as, this is Tesco. They didn't go, hang on a minute, what's GenM and what's this all about? And actually, if they'd done the research, we are on their side. We don't want snake oils. We don't want meno washing. We want choice, trust and credibility. And we want visibility to be able to menopause our way. So if they'd really done the work, instead of knocking Tesco for actually going, oh, this is disgusting, this is a brand who's actually now jumped on the bandwagon of menopause, if they'd done the research, they would have realised 2 perimenopausal women at the time worked with the biggest brands in the world to work how we could deliver from our research what women wanted, needed, and how they needed to be served and seen by these audiences who they felt had been let down and overlooked by. So, I have every time, and, I'm a bit like you, Alyssa, in the fact that I am a woman who will take constructive criticism better than I can do a compliment. But give me constructive criticism, that's the right constructive criticism, because I will take any criticism in the world. But actually, when we've done everything right to deliver up for this audience, and actually you can be a great influencer, you can be a great medic, you can be a great brand, but no one brand, no one influencer, no one celebrity, or no one perimenopausal co-founder or 2 co-founders are going to change the world of menopause. But together we can. And actually, they have to remember the reach of these brands. Once upon a time, the biggest countries had the biggest power to change how society thought. Now it's the biggest brands, your Procter & Gamble's, your Unilevers. We don't really realise how much we are controlled by that awareness. And if they can raise the awareness of menopause and help to normalise it and give women a better life through all generations, because, it's quite obvious here. I'm a girl from Yorkshire, and, I want all socio-demographics in all regions. I don't want menopause to be a white middle-class southern, experience, and actually one that they're thriving on, and the rest of the world, we can't feel like we can afford to be menopausal or no one thinks about us. I want every woman to have the best menopause that they can.
Apologies for interrupting this podcast, but I need to ask a favour. If you're enjoying this podcast so far, then please hit that subscribe button right now. I'll be straight up and honest that I want to see this podcast grow and flourish into something that I'm really proud of. And the only way that I can do that is with your help. So if you've ever learned anything useful from these conversations, then please return the favour by liking, rating, subscribing, and maybe even sharing it with your friends. Thanks very much. Let's get back to the episode. I think that for me, what was surprising, it was the people who, and by the way, if it was me, I wouldn't even bother getting into the argument with them on LinkedIn ever again, because I know why they're doing it. It's because they want the engagement, they want the headlines, they're clickbaity, because I can tell you that at least one of them was very much aware of the MTIC, what it takes to get that criteria, and knows all about it. Now, unless there's a disconnect and she's got a social media team who's running her account for her, she knew exactly what she was doing by putting that post out there that was going to be gaslit and getting everyone jumping on it exactly. And the only reason I can think that she's doing it is for engagement, because her account needs to grow.
But you know what? It's, I feel we're a bigger organisation than this, and actually, life isn't about scoring points. It's actually about doing the right thing.
For sure.
And GenM knows we're doing the right thing. And nothing will stop that journey.
You can hear that passion. You're not selling snake oil yourselves. You're not just like paying lip service to, we want to help menopause. This is a passion project driven by 2 women who were completely underserved. And like, I go back to the pregnancy thing, because you see that everywhere. Not every woman will get pregnant, but there is whole aisles, dedicated shops, this, that, and the other for it. So it's not a leap of the imagination to think that, well, you've shopped in John Lewis all your life, or Tesco, or Next, or M&S, or whatever. And they, M&S and John, I use John Lewis all the time as an example, because they handheld me through my pregnancy. When I went in there, I was like,
they won't handhold you through your menopause.
I don't know what the
now.
hell I'm buying. I need everything. And they're showing me different bottle seats and this and that and the other. And there's choice everywhere. Yeah. And they've got experts in store. This pram does this. This pram does this. This one comes with a rain cover. This one's leather. This one's whatever. There's so much different choice and tech on the market, and nobody thinks it's prego washing, is it?
No.
So,
but as well, I mean, John Lewis is a company that we would absolutely love to get on board.
I think we should,
because again, pregnancy as well, it's for 9 months.
For sure.
menopause can be up to 15 years.
Yeah.
Now, back to commercialism, we have to understand that money makes the world go round. And actually, if you're going to invest in an audience, why wouldn't you invest in an audience who actually are women who actually possibly have a bit more cash in their pockets now? This is the time that actually, if you're going to have some, whatever social demographic you're on, you've got more than you had when you were younger. And that ability to spend, we know where we're going, we know what we're wanting. Why wouldn't you target us and actually target us in a purposeful way? So again, it beggars belief that we've been missed out on.
For sure.
And equally, it beggars belief that people are surprised now that women of my generation are going, enough's enough. What's the surprise in that? We've been doing it all our lives. Our whole lives have been built on making change happen and driving change.
Do you think, though, that they didn't want to talk about it because it was almost like embarrassing? Because let's be honest, when you then get to menopause, it's almost like, and this is not me saying it, I'm reading a book at the moment, by the way, this kind of brings it up. And it's like you're now not needed by society because you're not fertile anymore. So you become invisible. Actually, what they say is you're not invisible, you're now ignored. Yeah. They don't want to know you anymore. And that's, so it's like they didn't want to serve that market because, well,
But as well, though, we as women aren't blameless in how menopause is a taboo. We have to, if we haven't got, it's back to the old adage, my dad brought me up on it. If you haven't got belief in yourself, Heather, don't expect anyone else to have belief in you. And I know it's a hard, tough one, but actually we need more women to have belief and value in themselves to be able to drive change. Now, I didn't know anything about my menopause. My mother has been a great supporter of my life from being a single, from being married and then throwing everything up in the air and starting again as a real single mother and setting up a business. She's followed me all the way through. She knows I don't take any shit. I just go dogmatic into driving anything back. Well, why was it then that actually she sat back and knew that Heather thinks she's got the world ahead of her. And my mother knew there was a menopause coming up. Did she tell me about it? No, she didn't. And then when I came to her and said, Mum, I'm building this business because I've been feeling terrible, she said, oh my God, why didn't you talk to me about feeling terrible? I said, well, why didn't you warn me that I might do you know what I mean? It was like, and so do I believe that society has made it a taboo? But equally, we've hushed it up as well. When women don't even talk to each other about it, when mothers don't talk to daughters about it, there was an incredible research report done by, I will think about it in a minute, QVC. And they said, and it said that more women would prefer to talk sex to their teenagers than they would to talk about menopause. Now, to me, that was just incredible that even men, if we can't educate our daughters and our sons about this, that it's just going to be a repeat circle again. And, my son and my daughter have both been there with me through all this. They, in fact, probably noticed my menopause changes quicker than I did, because let's not underestimate the family and our work colleagues around us see changes in us before we see them ourselves. And so if they were more aware, it's like the David Salmon, the incredible guy.
I was just say about that. It's not just a case of, we speak all the time about women should speak to women should speak about their symptoms, women. Realistically, there are partners on the other side of that are being massively affected by the symptoms of menopause, and relationships are crumbling because people don't know how to speak to their partner about menopause. Some of the GenM findings and the stats that have come out in regards to, how partners, males, are dealing with the information that's given to them by things like the invisibility report. I don't know, you'll know the stats better than me.
Well, 66%, and 66% of men feel helpless. Yeah. Now, I love the word helpless because it doesn't say they're ignorant. It shows that they actually feel helpless. And, David Salmon is a great example of this, an incredible, inspirational man who came to us when we, in our early years, and said to us, look, I've got a story and it needs to be told because I don't want anyone else to go through what I've gone through. He said, I've just heard about GenM. I saw you on Look North. He said, but through COVID, my wife, we have a semi-detached house. We have our family. She worked part-time at Sainsbury's. We were just a normal family and living a normal life. And she started having, I knew she was in a menopause because, he said, I knew she was going through the change because she was getting hot in bed and she was like, complaining about how sweaty she was getting. But, we just took it on the chin. And he said, anyway, she started getting a bit anxious, and he said, come on, love, we're going to go to the doctors about this. And we went to the doctors, and the doctors, obviously it was through COVID as well, said, anxiety, there's a lot of it going around at this moment in time, and your front line and everything else. Don't worry too much about it. Anyway, 3 weeks later, from nowhere, she'd actually taken her own life. And he was absolutely devastated. Nothing to really grip it. Anyway, 3 months later, he's watching the television, hears about GenM, sees what we're doing, sees the 48 signs. And reading those 48 signs, he realised that she'd been going through a lot more than just anxiety and hot sweats. And he still believes today, if he as a man had known more about it, he could have actually supported her better. Now, we don't want any man or child to ever feel like that about the woman that they love in their lives, and or any women who love other women. It goes across every aspect of life. But better awareness across society will give women the ability to be a better version of themselves, but allow them to have better relationships, be better at work, and actually live the life that they deserve. Because you work out, by the time you get to my age, how much a woman has done for the rest of society up to this point. Isn't it about time it's her time? And, I fundamentally believe this should be her time to truly be that best lived experience. And I didn't think I wanted to get to this age and go, oh, is that it? I'm over and done with. I want to know that actually I've still got a hell of a lot of life to live, and actually it's only going to get better from here. And that's not aspirational, that's a possibility. I'm 55. I've got, if I carry on doing my exercise and eating the right food and everything else, I'd like on average, without getting knocked over by a bus, to think that I could have a chance of a good another 20 years. And I want those 20 years to be blinking good. I don't want to sit back and go, oh my God, I've got 20 more years of this. No, I want it, oh my God, I've only got 20 years. How am I going to live them?
Yeah. I don't know if you saw Halle Berry last week. She was talking and she was like, I didn't even realise I was perimenopause. In fact, they misdiagnosed me as having herpes because she was having painful sex, and she'd had got some lesions down there. And she said I had the best doctors in California, and they were telling me I had herpes instead of I'm going through perimenopause and I'm having painful sex. She said, but you've got, and it's amazing that she's talking about it, because you've got people like J-Lo who are just would never talk about anything, which I'm damn sure she's on a mix of HRT plus growth hormone plus everything else.
Definitely testosterone.
Yeah, 100%.
If anyone just wants whatever it is.
If anyone's tried dancing on a pole like she does, it is pretty amazing.
I sit here with loads of people, I'm like, what do you think J-Lo's on and where can I get it? But yeah, but we should bring up HRT because there's lots of people, Davina effect, everybody goes on about HRT, and there's lots of menopause doctors who are like, just take HRT. Yeah. Just take HRT. That's the answer to everything.
But you know what? It is about choice. And I'm not going to sit here and go HRT or not to HRT. I've been on HRT, and actually, it worked for me. But did it make me feel great? No, it made me feel good. Actually, I want a great menopause. So what were the additional things I needed to do to this? And then when I got my food and my exercise better, and actually got my better sleep patterns because of the food and the exercise and the strength exercises, I actually started to wean myself off HRT. And again, that's not everyone's choice, but actually I felt that I could deliver this through the supplements, through the nutrients, through the exercise, through the food, through everything else about me, because it was my attitude to my life I had to change, because we've got to stop thinking about menopause being, just a point of time where we've got to just diet for a certain thing. Actually, this is diet for life.
Yeah.
And actually, this is exercise for life. If you want, if you want to be be able to, if you get the chance to ever have grandchildren or godchildren, I want to be able to pick them up. I want to be able to climb a mountain with them and say, look at that view over there. It's worth it. And actually, I don't want osteoporosis. No. I want my bones healthy. I want my muscles strong. And I had to get over the fear as well of not bulking up. I think that's another thing that women worry about. Oh, if I go to strength, if I do weight, am I going to bulk up?
I would even have the opportunity to bulk up, because I really work hard on building muscle tissue, and fucking hell, it's hard. Right. Yeah, it's not going to happen, love, believe me.
And it goes away so quickly as well.
Sure.
You can lose it so quickly. So, I never ever will say HRT or not to HRT. It isn't even a question, it's a choice, and actually educated choice that the internet, I know many women fear going to the doctors, different cultures fear going to the doctors. So even some of these journalists going, if every doctor gave out HRT, we'd be in a better world. Well, not every woman goes to the doctors anyway. So we've got to understand that. But actually most women and society go on the internet. They can go and they can Google all the choices. They can look at what's out there now. And I know at the moment it can feel overwhelming, but if you take it a baby step at a time, look at your food, look at your nutrition, look at your exercise, look at what better things you can do. Baby steps. I mean, I love the book Touching the Void by Joe Simpson, who's a mountaineer. And he talks about actually a big accident he had on the top of a mountain. He always said, if I'd thought about the journey to the bottom of the mountain, how long it would be, I would never have been able to do it. But if I took it in yards, I could get there a yard at a time. And actually, do you know what? Instead of thinking everything's going to happen, you're going to find the right solutions for your menopause tomorrow and Amazon are going to have delivered it by yesterday. Think again, this is a journey you're on. Some things will work, some things won't. Some things actually, if they don't work, don't say to your friends, oh, that didn't work for me. Actually say it didn't work for me, but it might work for you. This is all about finding what works for you. And down to HRT, again, it's not just taking HRT, it's what dose. Do you use gels? Do you use tablets?
Yeah, for sure.
Patches? Actually, and then each person's got to find it.
Do you want the combined? Do you want progesterone, estrogen? Do you, they're not really giving out testosterone, so what do you do instead? Or can you get hold of it? It's unlicensed, etc. You said you were 51 when you felt like you were going through perimenopause, or at least that's when you
I acknowledged it. Sam held it out and said, you are perimenopausal.
Yeah, for sure. Should you have started looking at this in your 30s?
I should have started looking at it in my 20s, to be fair, because actually all the learnings of a better life. I mean, I know that we're now 20, we go, we've got the rest of our life to live. But I actually think now that people are realising that actually life isn't as long as it is and you've got to start doing things earlier. So would I have actually liked to actually know it right from my health education and my sex education at school? I would have liked it to be put on the agenda so I knew there was life transitions. Not, you just had, you were a teenager, then you were a young woman, then possibly you had pregnancy and then that was it, and then one day your period stopped. I would have loved more, but actually if for a better preparation of my perimenopausal years, could I have done a lot more in my 30s? Yes, I could. Exercise-wise, nutrition-wise, not to actually panic start you, but just start to build.
Start to build the foundation.
Because again...
I say this week in, week out on this podcast, if you are over the age of 35 and you are not weight training, you must start today.
Completely.
Like literally, it's not, and it's not that's a luxury to do it.
Yeah.
No, it's non-negotiable. It's literally non-negotiable. Yeah. Do you breathe air? Yeah, you must go weight training.
Well, everyone brushes the teeth day in, day night. It should just become a normal part of it. But equally, we have to get rid of body images right now. We've got to start thinking about healthy bodies and strong bodies rather than, size 6, size 0, whatever they want to be. It's actually, we need to make strength attractive because actually you go on a beach and you see a woman who's strong. She looks stunning. But to some women, it'll be like, oh my God, she's bulked up. But no, we've got
there's
to.
Nothing better, I think, than seeing a fucking delt and a tricep.
No, but it's true. Do you know what I mean? But only a woman who's tried to get one will actually admire one. But
shout out to Fiona Lambert, by the way.
Oh, incredible.
I look at her arms, I think, Jesus, I want them.
I was speaking to her the other day, and I mean, obviously, an incredible career woman. You can't take away Jaeger, Marks and Spencer's, everything that she's done. But again, she's got to 60 and she's having a different time of her life now. And she's showing you can have the great body, you can actually be enjoying your life, and actually, the time is yours. And no, absolutely brilliant. But that's what we need more of. Be more Fiona, she's
going to love that. Yeah, so I totally agree. And this is kind of why I only got onto this really when I started seeing women on my health retreat, and I was probably young 30s then, and I started thinking, oh, right, God, and then I was seeing people who were in the Marines just like, going on about their food choices and this, that and the other. I was like, you're missing out a big part of that's going on in their lives, which is the hormones here. And then that really got me on thinking about this. And then obviously when COVID happened, I started my own supplement brand, which is all about supporting hormones, supporting those ladies while they're at home, and doing that to the best of our ability. And we use human clinical dosages to get that therapeutic dose that's in Elle-Sera, which not a lot of companies do. They put like a whisper of an ingredient in, which is
I think that's the other thing we're all, society's going to have to change on, because just because something's got it in doesn't mean to say it's got it in the right quantities. Equally, we're now just learning about sugar. You've been, and how many grams. It's equally as bad to have lots of it in as not enough of it. So, we've got to start looking at not just has it got these ingredients, but what's the quantities, and are they enough to make a difference to me?
For sure, because a lot of it's not even getting past your stomach acid. It's all getting burnt up in there, not even entering your bloodstream.
But do you not find, though, in this world right now, it's the more knowledge you have, the more frightening it is, because I do look now and the more cynical I've become. And I don't want to be a cynical 55-year-old woman. I want to be an empowered, educated woman.
Actually, I like more people entering the market because that creates competition and innovation. Yeah. So we should say that one of the big things, the great things about commercializing the menopause is the fact that other brands then have to innovate. Well, how do you then make yourself better?
Even better.
So if you are not using human clinical dosages and you can back it up with claims and your quality assurance isn't there, and you are selling crap in a bag, well, you're going to get found out very quickly because people are going to cotton on to that you're not very good.
Yeah. I mean, that is the other argument here. I mean, our MTIC gives that trust and credibility. But actually, we as women aren't stupid. It's like if it's a snake oil, it's snake oil, and you'll buy it once. I mean, we've all bought things once in our lives in times, whether it be a lipstick or a foundation that hasn't done what you thought it said on the label. You've just never bought it again, and you've bad-mouthed it over and over and over. But again, what I don't like about the criticism of men are washing, it's saying that women are victims here and we're exploiting vulnerable women. I'm 55 years old. I'm not a vulnerable woman. I'm a woman who's lived, and actually it's the worst time to call me vulnerable, and it's the worst time to call me a victim, because I am certainly not that, and neither is my generation of women. I haven't found yet one woman who's been privileged to get to the age of 55 and say I feel vulnerable and exploited. Don't put these words in our mouths, because we're not victims. And menopause isn't an illness. It's not a disease. It's a life transition. And so how the rhetoric, how we embrace it, how we talk about thriving rather than fearing it, how empowerment, how back to yours, about liberation rather than limitation. These are words we need to hear, but we also need to be authentic as well. Because GenM and the work we do isn't just about the MTIC and giving visibility. It's actually about helping brands understand this woman, actually how we need to be marketed to as well. Because we past being sold to, we want authentic, real images. We don't want,
you're not a woman in a cardigan holding her head with grey hair.
Yeah, see that all the time.
But nor are we like
kind of what creative I saw the other week.
Yeah, lavender flowers and lots of pearls.
Well, I mean, you get to this age, if you look on a dating app, they're not all salt and peppered, looking stunning, walking down a beach with a beautiful crisp beard or whatever walking down. We've got to be authentic and real here. And actually, the sooner we're authentic and real, but to an aspirational level, because what we forget as well, we're trying to get more women to aspire to value themselves and have no guilt about wanting a better health and life. But actually, if that aspiration is too far ahead, and I love Davina, and I absolutely, I spent lockdown building a Davina body. I mean, I have had to take the photograph of my stomach, because actually it's the one and only time it ever looked like that, but it was achievable. But what I mean is, sometimes the Davina effect is just too far from a woman. It's like, I can't be Davina, so I'll just sit and have my biscuits on the sofa because. So we've got to be really careful how we build aspiration, because you build it too high and it's too unachievable. We need much more baby steps into this, and we need, this is why I am going to call them out. The Ameliorate website with their skincare, they've actually used real skin and real bodies that actually any woman going on that site go, that's me, that's my skin. Actually, that's just normal skin. I think we just need to look into normalising bodies but giving those who are your Fiona Lamberts, and give those that. So there's some great happy non-Fiona Lamberts who will say they've got the best life. They're still fit and healthy, but they might not have the body that you and I might aspire to want. But equally, just show me more happy people. That's what I want. I just want happy people.
I just want to be honest, I totally agree with you. And we sit in our inbox, and Kelly will tell you, she's very close to our customers and the customer experience, and it seems doom and gloom. I don't know where to turn.
It's so dreary.
It's very I don't know how you feel, but it makes me think, fuck, I do not want to be menopausal. And even Danny, if I'm having a bad time or something, he'll say, I think you're going through the change or something already.
But you know what?
No, maybe you're just doing my head in.
On that though, we go back to when we had that. I know we're talking about the Tesco aisle, but I really love it. Is that she won't mind me saying this. My partner's mum definitely going through the menopause and has had a real shitter of a time with it, to the fact where he now, because he's had to learn so much from the likes of the GenM reports that I'll sit and read at night time, or when we're on a podcast and we're talking about it, he listens, he takes the information in, and he is so much more patient with his mum. He's so much more understanding, and he totally gets that, on certain days, like, yeah, she's having a migraine, so I'll know to leave her alone on that particular day, or I'll know that, she needs supporting, or I'm going to take her a bunch of flowers just to give her a bit of a smile, because, oh my God, what that woman must be going through on a day-to-day basis. So just from the smallest things, so GenM's making a big difference, not just for the consumers, but for the people that are on.
Absolutely. And, in our early days, we did, we had to go out, in the COVID times on Zoom. You all learned Zoom and Teams and everything else. And I did a pitch to one of the biggest retailers in the country and onto their executive. And I got a text afterwards saying, I am so embarrassed. He said, and it was a man, and it was a top executive in one of the biggest retailers. And he said, I'm so embarrassed. He said, my partner, she's going through a really bad time of menopause, hot sweats and everything else, and I'm having to move into the spare bedroom. And he said, every weekend I buy her chocolates and flowers. And he said, never once did I think to buy some climate control bedding, of which we sell. So he took her the climate control bedding home. She burst into tears, not because of anything other than he'd thought about her. And actually, that was a game-changing part for them, their relationship, because one, they can now sleep back together, but two, they opened up and talked about menopause. So actually, men in our lives bringing us something back to actually be practical can be that opening conversation, because many people say women don't want to talk about menopause. What they don't want to do is start the conversation. You get a woman to talk about menopause, and it's almost a relief to her.
Sure.
So, for any man out there, do not hide back, open up and talk, and allow her to share her experience.
I was in a service station at Lancaster, just popping in on the way to the motorway, and on the back of the doors it says, it's female toilets, is your partner suffering with ED, and a big helpline and everything else. I thought, wow. Would that ever be on the man's door? Is your partner suffering with menopause? Here's something that could help. And then I thought, well, okay, well, why don't we advertise on the back of toilet doors in men's?
Yeah.
But then that was when we got banned at that time. Actually, the GenM Collective were very good with that. They really helped us. We joined forces with a few, with Become, with a few of the other brands that were part of the collective, to kind of lobby Meta and speak to them about the things that they were banning. But that was literally, we had that exact conversation, and it was when we had erectile dysfunction ads and all of these herbal Chinese teas that you can take to get a nice stiff one, but we couldn't talk about vaginal dryness. Everything got banned. So there's still. But
I definitely think the back of the toilet door thing in the service station, because it's just a great way to advertise, because at no one point have you when people do meta ads, throwing money at meta ads all the time to get people to stop scrolling and get that attention and whatever. And I've just heard it 10 minutes before this podcast about that's the only way you're going to scale. I was thinking, okay, maybe not. But I'm sat on the toilet. I've got no phone on me because it's probably on the back of the cistern, right? I've got at least 10 to 15 seconds my full attention to read that ad. And I think it's...
So we have to be more on top of a urinal.
I definitely think it's somewhere... Well, why wouldn't you put it in there?
Go for gold. Put a golden target on a urinal. Go for it.
100%. I definitely think...
But it's...
To open up the conversation, let's do that.
We have to start being much more assertive with our marketing and not holding back. I mean, that is why, you Luna Daly, and you've had Katie on talking about the vulva. I mean, you said it 78 times.
78 times you said vulva.
So, it is there, but equally, we've all got a role to play now in just...
For sure, but definitely.
Not holding back.
Yeah, brands don't just market to women, market to your men. Yeah. Let him come home and say, I've seen this brand because I saw it in GQ or I saw it in wherever, but let's start targeting them in the conversation, because if you're targeting me about ED, let's go the other way.
But equally, we have, when people say to me, do I ever have any regrets? And I've never really had any regrets because actually I've lived by all my mistakes and I've owned them. And actually that way then, there's no one responsible for my life and my fuck-ups I've done other than myself. But equally, if I do have a regret, it's actually that all through my years of periods, I accepted I could be a bitch for 3 days. I accepted I could sit on the settee and just grouch and actually, leave me alone. I've got PMT and everything else. Who gave us the right to be a bitch? Who gave us the right to accept it? What point? It became normal, like, oh, blokes go down to the pub. Oh, she's PMT. I'm going down for a drink. Well, actually, we as women, I wished I'd gone, hang on a minute, this isn't right. How can I make myself feel better? Instead of absorbing it and almost, I was a great wallower of it. And I add up now how many days in my life I've lost to lying on a settee with a bar of chocolate and I feel fat, so I'm going to be fat. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and why didn't I ever stop and go, this isn't right. This is why I like what you're doing. I like what Hertility you're doing. Hertility, they're not a partner of us, but obviously. But again, I really respect what they're doing because if we bring more awareness, we can make more change. But if we just accept things, and that's what women have done too long, we've accepted things rather than question them. We've accepted that it's all right to be sympathetic to a man who's got erectile dysfunction. Oh, that must be the most awful thing, and let's not talk about, but let's work our way through this and we'll do it together. When actually, we've gone, oh, but it's all right for me to just handle myself by myself. No, it's not.
No, I know. And I think men are unsympathetic,
I don't know whether they're unsympathetic or we've not let them in. We've
I
not let them in.
I let mine in. I had a cesarean and you went skiing, so
Okay.
So I definitely let them in. I just think some are willfully ignorant to it.
Yeah.
Willfully ignorant. You have got a section of society who are willfully ignorant, of course, and then you've got a section of society that probably do want to help and understand, but don't really know how to, and a bit like cack-handed about it. And then you've got some who are probably a bit more savvy about it, but that I suppose depends on.
I also have to add this in, and it's just a reminder because we've all known men like your partner and love him to bits, but actually he has his weakness and everything else. And, my God, I can list them in my life. And in fact, I could sit here, we could do another hour on this show. But equally, we have to also understand that, we have to start to build better relationships with them, that it's not okay. And actually, those men weren't just born men. We gave birth to them. We've been responsible for educating them. So back to that QVC, I'd rather talk to my kids about sex than the menopause. We have a role to play in how the younger generation are brought up and what they know about things. I mean, my most embarrassing moment was I went out for my son's 21st. It was just me and him, and we'd done the party and everything else, but his birthday landed in the week and he was working down in London. So I took him to Scott's and we had a lovely meal at Scott's, and I got up off the chair and I realised it was wet. And then I looked down and it squelched, and I'd had the most incredible period start whilst I was at the dinner table. So not only did I stand up, but the chair was absolutely wrecked. But I had to walk to the toilet at that point, and everyone thought I was hemorrhaging, but I came back and my son, he'd taken his jacket off and he put it over my shoulders and says, come on, Mum, let's get you out of here. Well, he wasn't embarrassed. He was actually shocked for me. He knew I wasn't hemorrhaging, but it was like, will that traumatize him or give him PTSD about women's periods? No, it'll make him much more responsible and sympathetic and go, oh my God, that this is terrible. But it wasn't, oh, this is so embarrassing. That was, oh my God, Mum, what can I do to help here? So again, we've got to bring them into this. And you should have actually gone to the airport and gone, I'll take you to the airport. I'll show you where you could be going. And now I'm going to drive you back because that's the right way to do this.
She couldn't drive at that point because she had 6 layers of skin cut open.
I know, Okay, and a newborn. I was like, great.
Well, maybe you should just pass the newborn and go, I don't know how you're going to ski with this newborn, but here goes.
You would have found a way.
Yeah, for sure. You would have found a way. Well, do you know what, Heather? We've come to the end of our podcast today. So it's been absolutely amazing talking to you. You really, I love what you've done with GenM. As soon as I saw about it, I was like, first in, really. Loved it. absolutely love everything that you do. I love being part of the clique. I was saying to you before, I said everything's underpinned by data. I love reading through the invisibility report and all the other bits of data you bring. And you bring a lot of companies together, and you're really supportive of brands like us too.
Well, I mean, you are the future. Brands like yourselves, not only just for the products you create, but the women co-founders, the founders, the aspiration you give to other women to go, I can do this, I can have a child, I can build a business. You know, we're more than just the products we're creating. And that's what we've got to remember as well. But equally to any woman or man listening to this podcast, I'd like to call them out as well, because everyone's got a role to play in making the menopause experience better today than yesterday. That you can talk about the 48 symptoms, you can share them. But also, for the last 3 years, we've been building the GenM business. We've been working with brands like yourself, we've been working with retailers, and we've been working with manufacturers to build the credibility of this MTIC. It is now getting to the stage where we need more customer awareness of it. Now, again, please, if you're listening to it and your retailer doesn't have the MTIC or it's not got any shelves or about menopause, go up to your manager, the manager in the store manager, say, what are you doing about menopause? Have you joined GenM? Why aren't you giving me more visibility? You know, because actually consumer counts, and actually we have a voice and we have a vote, and we vote with our wallets, but actually don't actually get aggressive with them. Actually just point out something that they might not have noticed and actually help them understand the menopausal consumer. Don't attack them aggressively about that they haven't got the MTIC, but actually just say, why haven't you got the MTIC? And this would
nice
really,
suggestion.
you know, it's, and again, you know, back to those 48 symptoms, it's not all about the MTIC and the products. It's actually about raising the awareness. Until we have better awareness, we can't actually deliver better service for the women in this. So, you know, please just do your own bit. Gym it, talk it, pub it. It's not embarrassing to talk about the menopause. And actually, you know, I've got male friends who are buying a dog so that they can hopefully attract women, you know, women to them, the single men. I'm actually going, the single man who talks about menopause actually will be a real catch to women. Do you know what I mean? Of a certain age anyway. So if you want a cougar or you want actually women of your own age, talk menopause and you're sorted. So.
And on that note.
Thank you very much, Heather, for coming in. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you very much for having me.